All right, everybody. I think it's time to start off this event. It's incredible to see so many people here. We're really glad that it's such an interest in the blockchain community and in the blockchain technology. Very welcome to Linköping Blockchain Meetup. Hopefully you've gotten some food in your stomach and had a time to chat with each other beforehand. I would like to start off by really thanking Cybercom, who have sponsored with all the food that you're eating and all the beer and water, and also Mjärdevi Science Park for sponsoring with this location and yeah, helping out with all the technologies and tables, etc. And Amanda over there have done a big part. Yeah, it's a quite interesting mix of people here tonight. It's a lot of students, it's a lot of company representatives, both from Mjärdevi Science Park, but also from outside, and quite a lot of people from the blockchain community. So take this opportunity and mingle around and talk with people, because there's a lot of knowledge here to be gained and a lot of contacts to meet. So who am I? My name is Max Fischer. I'm studying my 4th year of Industrial Engineering and Management here at Linköping University. And I'm also a representative from Stockholm Blockchain, and we're hosting this event tonight. Apart from doing events, we're also doing advisories and workshops and educations for companies that want to learn a little bit more about the blockchain technology and go even deeper. So if you're out there and you want to learn more from your company, feel free to either talk to me or Erik or Philip down there. All right, I'm not the one who's gonna talk tonight because we have 4 awesome speakers here with us that you probably are more interested in. First of all, Ivan Liljeqvist is going to talk about the blockchain and token economy. After that, Christopher De Geer will talk about the blockchain principles. We were supposed to have Christian Ander here, but he couldn't come. But instead he sent an as good representative, Christopher. After that, we have Christopher Lundin, who's a security expert at Cybercom. He will speak about a real-world application of blockchain. And after that, Philip Martinsson from Stockholm Blockchain will take the angle from finance. So we try to angle it from different sides. Yeah, so the first speaker then. He has quickly become one of the most prominent persons in this ecosystem. He's running one of the biggest YouTube channels in the world on the subject, Ivan on Tech. And he has been featured in multiple media channels such as Forbes magazine, Business Insider, Breakit, etc. So a big welcome and warm applaud for Ivan Liljeqvist.
Thank you very much. Max, is the mic working? You test the mic. The mic doesn't seem to work. Here, I can take that mic. Otherwise, okay. All right. I'll just use this one. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Max, for the introduction. And amazing to see so many people here, because this space has really exploded during the past years, and it's fun for us to now see that so many people are interested, because just a few years ago the only people who came to such events were very technical people or very ideological people, but now we see industry, now we see different companies, we see lawyers, we see finance. Everyone is starting to realize the importance and the weight of this technology. And today I want to share my own perspectives and why I think this technology is so important, and also share my views on the future and how this technology can be utilized in industry, and try to give you the idea of how the industry might look like in the future. So first of all, who knows what this picture represents? Have you seen this picture before? Just raise your hands. Right, so what does it represent? Almost. Oh, okay, someone else? Someone else? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's from the UN, and they have a couple of goals. And one of the goals is that there should be no poverty in the world, that all people should have enough money to survive and feed their children. Unfortunately, that is not the case today. And I want to share my own personal story, because this is from my childhood. And if you imagine a very cold November night, and my parents and I were standing in this huge queue, and this was cold outside, and it was dark, and many people were in this huge queue together with us. And it were poor people and rich people. Everyone was standing and waiting in this huge queue. And of course you might be wondering, Ivan, what is this queue about? What were you waiting for? And the thing is, when I was a child, we lived in Belarus. And Belarus has very huge problems with inflation. The thing is, when you put your money into the Belarusian ruble, you don't really know how much that is going to be worth tomorrow. And so at that particular day, the currency crashed, and everyone wanted to exchange the currency, the Belarusian rubles, for dollars or for euros. And so everyone was queuing to the ATMs to get out some other currency that is more stable. And this story is not only common in Belarus, it is common in Venezuela, it is common in many other countries in the world. And we will talk more about this, but this has a lot to do with curing poverty. Because hyperinflation, because financial exclusion is one of the biggest reasons for poverty in the world. And when we're talking about blockchain, we have to realize that it is not only about economy, it is not only about currency, it is not only about money, it is also about the society, and it is also about the technology. And this is why I think so many people are interested in this space, and this is why I think so many people are attracted to this space as well. So who am I? I've already received a good introduction from Max. I've always been interested in blockchain. It started with the fascination for the technology. How can you actually transfer value over the internet? Because when you think about it, when you think about transferring things over the internet, it's always that you can copy. If I get you a file, you can always copy it and give it to many other people. So that is how I started. That was my main passion, because I've always been interested in technology, in programming, and software development. So for me, I started with the technology part of things. And then you discover the economical aspects, and then you discover the aspects with society, and so on and so forth. And so I started researching this in 2013 and learning as much as possible. This also led me to create Ivan on Tech YouTube channel, and now I travel and educate companies, governments, and organizations about this technology, and it's amazing to be here with you tonight as well. So first of all, let's talk about blockchain. What do these three words have in common? So we have the internet, we have radio, we also have blockchain. Maybe you haven't heard about blockchain. How many of you know what blockchain is approximately? Most of you know. So what is the similarities between internet, radio, and blockchain? Who can tell me? What are the common factors? Yes. They all change the world. Yes, that is correct. What else? What else? Yes. Networks. Yeah, that is also very good. Okay, let's take one more try and see if you can guess my thought. They're distributed as well, but they're also permissionless. No one can stop you from using the internet. There is no government organization, there is no entity that can stop you. You are free to create websites, you're free to use websites however you want. So they are permissionless. The same with radio, you're free to broadcast. Of course there are some regulations regarding the frequencies, but when it comes to the actual physics, I can broadcast a wave. There's no one that can stop me. So these technologies are permissionless. Anyone in the world can use them without anyone stopping you from using them. And that is also true for blockchain. And being permissionless is a very important aspect of blockchain, because now we can suddenly have currencies that are permissionless, that no one can stop you from using them. And it doesn't matter where in the world you live, which financial background you have, and so on and so forth. So this is the first thing we have to realize about blockchain, that these are permissionless technologies, just like the internet, just like the radio. And the beautiful thing is that it's all based on incentives. When I started learning about Bitcoin, and that is how I got into this whole space, I heard about Bitcoin, I got curious. How can it actually work? How can you have a system without any central bank, without any central server, without any central entity, and it still works? You cannot cheat the system. It is still controlled in some way. So how can you have this structure? How can you have this network? And it's all about incentives. That the miners in Bitcoin are incentivized to play by the rules. All the players in the network are incentivized to play by the rules. You earn money by being honest. It's in everyone's interest to be honest. So incentives is a very, very big aspect of blockchain technology, of cryptocurrencies. And when we're talking about cryptocurrencies, we always need to think about what is the incentive model in that particular project, in that particular cryptocurrency. And so in Bitcoin, we, for example, have miners. And this is a cornerstone of cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So let's talk about Bitcoin in more detail. So Bitcoin started in 2008. Someone just published a white paper on the internet. Usually you go through academic institutions, you try to get your paper into some kind of academic journal, but Satoshi Nakamoto just published it on the internet. And Satoshi Nakamoto is this anonymous person or organization that designed this system. And in 2008, he, she, or they published it online, describing this system with peer-to-peer electronic cash. And then in 2009, we got the first implementation that someone actually took the white paper. Satoshi took the white paper he or she created and gave us an implementation. And since then, we were able to transfer value on the internet, peer-to-peer, without any intermediaries, in a permissionless way. I keep repeating permissionless because it is extremely important to this ecosystem that anyone can use money, anyone can use and be a part of the global economical system, of the global economical world. And this continued for several years. From 2008, we've seen quite some interest in Bitcoin. We saw several other projects such as Litecoin that got inspired by Bitcoin and wanted to tweak it and make their own cryptocurrency. Because when we're talking about Bitcoin, when we're talking about cryptocurrencies, there are often open source projects that you and I, we can go and help develop these projects. We can take the code, we can make our new coin and keep developing that new coin instead. So open source is very important in cryptocurrencies, and it is also a cornerstone. Just like incentives, open source and open source community and building things together on a global level is also a cornerstone. Who knows who that man is? Some people know. All right. Can you tell me who that man is? Yes, so this is Vitalik Buterin. What did he do? Ethereum. He came from Mars, maybe. There are some theories. But so, when we're talking about Bitcoin, we're talking about simple blockchain technologies that you and I, we can transfer value to each other. What Vitalik had in mind is, why don't we give Bitcoin a programming language? Why can't we develop applications on the blockchain? Because you can think of Bitcoin as a currency application using blockchain technology. Just like your iPhone runs many apps, you can think of blockchain as an iPhone, and then you can run different applications on top of it. So Bitcoin was this currency application, and Vitalik had this idea, why don't we add a Turing-complete programming language to Bitcoin, so that you and I, we can develop our own applications, our own programs, our own software that runs in this decentralized manner without any central server, without any central organization, or without any central entity running our applications. And he tried to pitch this idea to Bitcoin developers. And he was a part of the Bitcoin community back then. He didn't get much support. And so instead he went and founded Ethereum. That is the second largest cryptocurrency currently. And the main difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is that Ethereum is meant to be this platform for decentralized applications. And a good question is, of course, what is an example of such an application? And you can think of one example, that is inheritance. For example, if you are my children and I want you to inherit my money, well, currently we can go to an escrow service. I put in my money into the escrow service, and then I need to trust the escrow service to do their job, to give my money to you when I'm dead. But instead, with Ethereum, with smart contracts, we now can put these financial applications on the blockchain and not having to trust a third party, not having to trust anyone, anyone that can, for example, mishandle their job or have some other incentives. So instead what we can do is that we can create a smart contract on Ethereum. We put the money into the smart contract, and the smart contract keeps track of when I'm dead, when I'm not dead, and we can do it in several ways. For example, that I need to interact with the smart contract once in a while to let it know that I'm still alive. And then when I don't interact for 5 or maybe 2 years, then the smart contract would transfer the funds to you, to my children. And so this is the whole idea, that now we can have decentralized applications that can remove third parties. And we're talking about trustless applications. And this is also a cornerstone. So we talked about incentives, that is a cornerstone. Open source is a cornerstone. And being able to build trustless applications is a cornerstone, because I don't need to trust a third party. And much like in Bitcoin, I don't need to trust a bank. I don't need to trust you to have the money you promised me. It's all handled by the blockchain. So trustlessness is extremely important. And when we're talking about Ethereum, this is when we can start talking about the industrial applications of Ethereum. And there's something that is called Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, which is this organization of big companies and institutions such as JP Morgan. They're all working together to find new ways to apply Ethereum and to develop Ethereum together, so that you actually can use Ethereum in industry. And this has several huge implications when we're talking about such industries such as supply chain, such as manufacturing, such as accounting, and several others. We can talk more about that if you have questions and are interested. But something we have to keep in mind is that Ethereum has huge implications for Ethereum due to applications that are running in a decentralized way on the blockchain. And the finance will of course be changed, because currently we have 12 years old who already use cryptocurrencies. They already buy goods and services from each other when they are in school using cryptocurrencies. And the thing is, when I was 16, when I was 15, I found it extremely annoying to not be able to use bank accounts, to not be able to have my own money. And so already today we have children using cryptocurrencies, so when they come to a bank and get their first bank account, and they get to hear that, you know what, it takes several days to transfer money to other countries, and by the way, we're closed on Sundays and Saturdays, also we're closed after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they will ask, what is going on? Have you heard about Bitcoin? And therefore finance will change forever. Insurance is another huge aspect when we're talking about trustlessness, when we're talking about removing third parties. And the law, in my view, will also change a lot. Because when we have smart contracts, we have agreements between different parties. We have agreements between companies and organizations, between individual and companies. And so the lawyers of the future will have to be proficient in programming, will have to be proficient in these decentralized structures. Because the lawyers of the future will need to deal with smart contracts. And that is where we're heading as an industry. We will have organizations doing business with each other on the blockchain in a trustless way. So it's all about trustlessness when we're talking about industry, removing middlemen, not having to trust an extra party that requires trust, number one, and probably costs a lot. Just like in the escrow example we talked about with inheritance. Another very big aspect is fundraising. And my next question is, have you seen this chart? Who has seen this chart before? Some people have. Let's see. What is this chart? No, this is not Bitcoin price, although it could have been. Okay, who else? It says on the title, but who has seen it before? Not many people. But this is all about ICOs. Have you heard about ICOs? Some people have. So ICOs is this new way of raising money using cryptocurrencies. That you and I, we can issue our own cryptocurrency nowadays. Very easy. We can sit for half an hour and we have a cryptocurrency. Before, in order to create a cryptocurrency, you had to design the entire network, the entire protocol. Maybe you could take Bitcoin's code, but it was still very hard, and you really had to be skilled. Now with Vitalik and with Ethereum, it is extremely easy to just create a cryptocurrency. Everyone can do it. You can probably do it if you have at least a minimal programming experience. And so when we see this chart, this is how much money that was raised in ICOs together. So if we add all the money that was raised in ICOs, this is how much we raised. And here is May of last year. As you can see, we've seen a huge explosion during the summer. And this chart ends somewhere in September. So we're currently in January, so probably it is already somewhere here. And the initial coin offerings, that is what ICOs stand for, when we release our own cryptocurrency and we release it to the world and we start funding our businesses, we start funding our ideas with cryptocurrencies, they're called ICOs. And last year, they surpassed early stage VC funding already. So when we're talking about cryptocurrencies, when we're talking about blockchain, we're also talking about a whole new paradigm of fundraising. So why is this so important? Well, it's extremely important when we're talking about financial exclusion. Financial exclusion is a huge problem in the world. Because if you live in a country that doesn't have any capital, it doesn't matter how good you are, how skilled you are, how good of an idea you have, or a team you have, you will not get funding because there are no funding in your country. You will not find the venture capitalists that can help you or angel investors. So by being able to issue tokens in a permissionless way, no one can stop you. By being able to issue tokens that are global, they work all over the world, you can for the first time ever attract investors from the whole world. You are part of the global economic system. So this is why I think cryptocurrencies are crucial when it comes to poverty. We're talking about curing financial exclusion with fundraising. We're talking about curing hyperinflation by having cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin that have a max supply. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. And you don't have to trust your government to just keep your currency at a reasonable level, because in many countries you can't. In Sweden, it's easy for us to think, why should you have Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin useful? Because Sweden has had a stable economy for many years. But if you just talk to someone who is from another country that is not used to having this stability, they understand it a lot quicker. In Venezuela, people understand Bitcoin a lot quicker than people in Sweden. And we're, after all, a very high-tech country, or at least we like to think of ourselves as very high-tech. So as we can see, a whole new paradigm when it comes to ICOs. Something we need to mention is that this is still a wild, wild west. How many of you have heard about ICO scams? Many people have. So this is a wild, wild west. It's a whole new industry. And many people are new. Many people don't know how ICOs work. Many people don't know what to look for in ICOs. And of course, it's a perfect environment currently for scammers. No question about that. It's a perfect environment currently. However, it is still a revolutionary technology. Just like the internet was filled with scammers in the beginning, if you told someone that you would go on a date with someone from the internet in the 90s or 80s, people would just think, are you insane? You will get killed and butchered, probably. So the same thing is with blockchain and cryptocurrencies. In the beginning, of course, it will be filled with scammers and criminals, because they need to use the latest technology. They are in an environment of very high risk, and they really have to succeed with all their criminal, dark ideas. Therefore, they will use the latest technology, just like they used the internet when that was new. And still, we need to think about the future and think about the really, really big fundamental changes this technology will have and the good this technology will do in the world. So let's talk about the future. In the future, I definitely think that industry and business will be affected a lot by blockchain. We talked about trustlessness, we talked about smart contracts between organizations, individuals and organizations. This is extremely important. And now we see industry as such events. Now we see that financial institutions are interested. Now we see that lawyers are interested. We actually got invited several times to law firms to talk about this because they are eager to learn. They are eager to learn because they realize that their business is changing. The same with insurance, the same is with creative industries, how we can fund our favorite artists, how we can break barriers, remove middlemen. So industry and business, they are changing. Another extremely interesting aspect is called crypto equity. And this has to do with the fact that we don't really need to have stocks as we currently have them. Why not have stocks on the blockchain? Why can't I buy Apple stock on the blockchain and trade it all over the world? Why are stocks restricted to a single exchange? And then if you want, you can try to list on another exchange, but cryptocurrencies are global. And crypto equity is just a natural continuation of the blockchain revolution and of the blockchain movement. So you having your stocks, your equity in some kind of token, in some kind of cryptocurrency, it will become true in the near future, because it is just a lot simpler to trade, a lot more liquidity because they are global, a lot easier to move, and so on and so on. Something else that we see are regulations. Of course, when we see these huge charts and more and more people using cryptocurrencies, many institutions, many governments feel that this is something that is new and they don't have control over. And China is a great example. And they banned ICOs, you may have heard. They banned exchanges, you may have heard that as well. But something we need to keep in mind is that it is, of course, very positive for a country to have a blossoming blockchain industry. And I think although regulations will come, some countries will do it in a good way, some countries will do it in a bad way, but regulations can be a good thing. Because in order to grow innovation, in my view, there needs to be some kind of regulation. Not very harsh, but some kind of guidance. Because currently, if there are no regulations, no huge company, no bank will ever touch cryptocurrencies. Because banks, they're afraid to lose their banking license. If they don't have any guidelines, they don't have any regulations at all, the risk is just too high. So regulations will come. And some countries will do it in a good way, some countries will do it in a bad way. We'll also see countries experimenting with blockchain technology. You may have, for example, heard that Lantmäteriet in Sweden are experimenting with putting the land registry on the blockchain. Why are they doing that? Well, because blockchain can be thought of as a global database, as an immutable database where you can put records. It's not only about transactions, not only about money. You can put data on the blockchain and it will stay there forever. And that is why I also think that United Nations, or just the global community as a whole, will use blockchain as a standard. Just put all public information on the blockchain, so it can't be tampered with, no one can change them. Just imagine if you put the bostadskön on the blockchain, so that no one can put their children in front of anyone else. It is huge. And of course, if the UN adopts blockchain as a standard and some kind of country doesn't want to put their public information on the blockchain, the natural question is why? It is public information. It should be public. Why don't you want to put it on the blockchain? Do you have something to hide? Is a natural question. We also see Estonia working a lot with blockchain. So this is something I definitely think will happen, regulations, more countries experimenting, more countries adopting cryptocurrencies, blockchain, thus fighting corruption. So I hope you learned something. I hope you understand how financial exclusion can be fought with blockchain, how hyperinflation can be fought with blockchain, and how corruption can be fought with blockchain. And I hope you also understand trustlessness. I hope you understand permissionless and all of these aspects and cornerstones we talked about. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Should we take questions? Or, okay, do you have questions? How many minutes? Okay, a couple of minutes. Okay, yes, questions, please. Incentives, yes. Yes. Yes, so we're talking about the permissionless systems very often. However, you can also have, when we're talking about industry, you can also have permission-based systems. And so, for example, if you have a supply chain with many players producing different parts of a product, their incentive is to control each other. I want to know that the party before me did their job. They want to know that the party before them did their job. So you all want to control each other. And therefore, your incentive is to have this system where we all keep an eye on each other. And that is why you are a part of this system, of this network. Now, when it comes to Lantmäteriet, it is still not clear exactly how they're going to do it. But in my view, there needs to be some kind of incentive structure. There needs to be some kind of incentive structure. Maybe that different countries are all part of this network and they all keep track of each other's data. So it's public information in every country. All countries want to keep this in a very open, transparent way, and this can be their incentive. So for each blockchain application, when you want to have a decentralized system, there needs to be some kind of incentive. Sometimes it is economical incentive. In Bitcoin, it is economical, because you as a miner, you get block reward, you get transaction fees. The same is in Ethereum. But when you have permission-based, that you only have a couple of players, maybe we are 20 companies in a supply chain, or maybe we are 20 countries having this blockchain together with our public records, then our incentive is just to have this, this global database that is immutable, that is corruption resistant, and our incentive is to keep an eye on each other. More questions? Or
quite tight schedule, so
okay, okay, one more question, yes.
And then we need to...
Yes, okay. Please.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, Mark Zuckerberg said that he wanted to improve Facebook using blockchain
Yeah.
and encryption and decentralization.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what he meant by
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You should. Do you know about Steemit? So yeah, the question is, Mark Zuckerberg said that he wants to use cryptocurrencies for Facebook. So what can be the use case for Facebook? And of course, Facebook is one of these third parties that we want to avoid. So I'm not completely sure what he thinks. However, blockchain is huge when it comes to social media. And you should go to Steemit. Check it out. You get paid for posting good content. So this is an economical structure that is built around people posting good content and actually getting rewarded by the network for posting good content. And a good example with social media is advertising. Because currently, if I'm an advertiser, I pay Facebook, and Facebook shows you ads. With blockchain, we can remove the middleman. Why do we need to have Facebook? I, as an advertiser, I want your attention. So I want to pay you directly. So whenever you watch my ad, you get paid. This is how social media will work in the future. We remove the middleman. We do business on the blockchain. We have smart contracts. It is all trustless and all decentralized. So of course, social media will change, advertising will change, because now you as an advertiser have a direct contact with the people who watch your ads. And also, you know, when it comes to Facebook, there is no transparency. And transparency is also very important when we're talking about blockchain. We're talking about public records, should be transparent, but also advertising. For example, if you read Break It, you've read that a few months ago, if you entered into Facebook, how many teenagers there are in Sweden. So if you created an ad and you just entered, I want to reach all teenagers, they showed you some huge number, and there aren't that many teenagers in Sweden at all altogether. And Facebook shows you that if you want to reach teenagers in Sweden, we will show this to this many people. And it is a lack of transparency. How can I trust Facebook as an advertiser? Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. We don't know. There's no transparency. With blockchain, there is transparency, and there's also no middleman. All right, I think we need to move on. Thank you very much for questions.
Thank you very much, Ivan.